right, and hello and welcome to the RTÉ Soccer Podcast. I am Raf Giallo, and remember, this is one of two episodes this Monday. We're kind of splitting them up like we did last week. If you want to listen to the other episode, it's Keith Tracy and Richie Towell talking about the League of Ireland and also the depleted Ireland forward line with Troy Parrott sort of almost flying solo at the moment just with the amount of injuries. But right now, we're also sticking to the international team at the start of this episode, and Rachel Graham and Méabh De Búrca, who's on Zoom, join me. How are you all?
I'm good, Raf.
Good stuff.
Yeah, not too bad now.
Yeah, now obviously the main thing we're talking about is the last two games last week against France and the Netherlands, which is the World Cup qualifiers, of course. Two narrow defeats, two 2-1 defeats. But let's start on the France game, because there are a lot of positives that come out of it, but also a few, I suppose, lingering concerns with big games against Poland to come next month. But Méabh, I suppose for yourself, the start of the France game was quite impressive, I suppose, from an attacking point of view for Ireland.
Yeah, it really was, Raf. Like, they created, I think, 3 chances maybe before that goal. I know Connolly had the free kick, then Patton had a header, Murphy had another chance before that goal from Katie McCabe, and it was a great goal, really. Such nice, neat interplay with Murphy, who I think has shown such maturity in recent games, and just a little weight of that pass was so good into McCabe, who finished it, with expertise really into the corner. So yeah, it set us off on such a good positive note, something that maybe we haven't been there in the past, that we might start slow against these teams. So yeah, attacking wise, the opening few minutes was really, really positive, considering France is such a good top nation. But then of course the goals that came, we'd be disappointed in how we conceded those.
Yeah, and Rachel, I suppose Katie and Denise have always been the ones we've talked about as being the key players, particularly in terms of opening up other teams. But Emily Murphy suddenly, and we saw it with the quality and even the awareness to know that McCabe is overlapping behind her, she's kind of put herself into that sort of category at least over the last 2 games.
Yeah, definitely. And look, probably when she first came in, it was one where, I don't know if it was youth or, inexperience, probably wasn't really playing a whole load, like playing a lot, playing really well. And I just think even in the last League B, I thought she started to show, real progress, real development. And I think these 2 games, she's really kind of shone. And like, she's still very young. I think she's only turned 23, like really recently. So still very young, like 10, 12 years ahead of her still. So, but even like you said, yeah, her leadership in the game as well. She was making things happen. She was getting onto things, bringing other players in, done excellent for Katie's goal. And look, hopefully it is more to come. And obviously we know Denise and Katie are, I wouldn't say they're near the end, but like there will be a day soon where they're not around. So we do need to make new leaders. But I think she definitely really shone the 2 games. Obviously got the 2 man of the matches, so it was well recognised. But yeah, no, she was excellent in the 2 games. And look, hopefully against Poland now she can top the same performances and top them off with a goal this time.
Yeah, and Méabh, I suppose, obviously the goal went in relatively early, and Ireland held out for quite a while, and it is this tight pitch that had been talked about beforehand. So what did they do well in terms of holding out until what we will talk about later, things fell apart slightly towards the end?
I think they're really organised. You could see the kind of the bank of 5 at the back, and then the 3 and 2 in midfield, and they were so disciplined in their approach. They were just shadowing over and back, just moving with the French, and Carusa up top with Murphy. They sat in, but they gave cover to the midfield as well, and it just seemed to be going well, because I suppose especially when you do get that early goal, you know that you have something to cling on to, whereas in other games, if you were a goal behind, you kind of do have to change that game plan. So in that sense, they were able to stick to the game plan and just move over and back, like I said, and the spaces France were trying to exploit out wide, but we did have extra cover there as well when we shifted across, and of course it was, Denise was pulling the strings then in midfield, where we did create those chances with Murphy on the counter-attack as well.
Yeah, and then things opened up for France in terms of spaces, and Malvine Millard obviously is the one who will be, I suppose, the name that is a bit of a nightmare after that one. But in a sense, what was it that sort of opened things up? Was it a bit of fatigue, do you feel, or was it just some tactical tweaks from the French as well?
Yeah, I think fatigue played a big part, and look, that's probably the big difference between us and these nations is, look who they have coming off the bench onto games. Like Millard, comes on, scores 2 goals, plays for Man United. Katoto came on, plays for Lyon. Like, if we have them players in our squad, they were our top players, they were our main players, and they're sitting on the bench for France. So that's a big difference. And I think as well, when Katie kind of went inside, we know she had a bit of an injury, and you can see for the first goal, she's probably a bit too far away. And if Chloe Mustaki's in there, who's more a natural defender, centre half, probably recognised the step across a little bit. But look, it's a great piece of skill. And then probably a bit of fatigue. They obviously have fresh legs on, and we didn't make changes till late enough in the game. And already when you're doing a lot of sprinting, running off the ball, it really kind of does tire you. So maybe we could have maybe freshened up a bit. And even the thing with the game is our centre mids, it wasn't like they were getting on the ball, from our defenders and joining up the attack. And it was just someone to run in and like shift side to side, block passes, close people down. So probably could have made a bit of a change earlier there. Maybe would have made a difference, but look, it's the quality of the goal for quality in the two teams and who they bring on and who we bring on.
Yeah, and Méabh, did you feel the substitutions were proactive enough across both games actually?
Yeah, probably not. It seemed to be a lot kind of reaction really, rather than that proactive approach. Like I said, it was only done after or in reaction to what had happened. And yeah, I'd agree with Rachel there in terms of moving McCabe into centre back. I don't think that worked, and she was moved straight back out right after that first goal. So no, I think I would have liked to have seen Abby Larkin on a lot earlier. I thought she did so well in that second Belgian game. She really changed the game, and I thought we could have really kind of maybe brought the game a little bit more to France. If we think back to the game in Porky Queeve, we had the likes of Julianne Russell and Leanne Kiernan just tirelessly running at the French, and that's how we seem to, I think, get great success. So just I would have thought, maybe bringing on that fresh legs that little bit earlier, even the likes of Jessie Stapleton, Jamie Finn, those kind of players, even Rusha Littlejohn, just shore up that midfield area and bring a bit of experience in there, fresh legs. Maybe we could have had a different result, but who knows.
Yeah, it was still nearly 2-2 at the end, because obviously Denise has that chance at the very end where they did show a little bit of impetus.
Yeah, and look, to be fair, like it's always easy to do that. If you're losing 2-1, you've nothing to lose. You'll always just throw everything at it in the last 5 minutes. And France are clever as well. They know they have the game won if they don't concede, so they're not going to go and try everything they can to score against us. So I think a game naturally does swing that way. But I mean, how unlucky is Denise? She probably just thinks all I need to do is hit it, and 9 times out of 10 that is right. But she's just in the right position, just kind of hits her. Probably she doesn't even realise until it's on her head that it's going towards it. So look, so unlucky. But yeah, no, it was a great push towards the end. A real kind of bit of excitement, like a real bit of atmosphere in the ground. But just, sometimes you need that bit of luck, and we just didn't get it. Yeah,
and Méabh, then if we move on to what happened on Saturday in Utrecht as well. Again, Ireland starting in a very encouraging fashion going forward.
Yeah, they did. In fairness, they were kind of threatening, I suppose, with a couple of early chances with Hayes headers and that. So they did have a few chances, and that was again something you might be worried about against these top teams. But a really, really positive start, I thought, from them. I know we weren't missing Denise O'Sullivan, hard to replace 129 caps, that she has, and thought I know before the game, I suppose we were thinking of who might replace her, and you probably could have named the likes of Littlejohn again, Finn, Tolan, Stapleton, and I think a lot of people were surprised with Carla's choice of putting Lucy Quinn in there. But then again, she had favoured her in a lot of the Nations League games last year too. So I think Lucy did put in a good shift for the 65 minutes she was on, and I suppose it's just very hard to replace a player of Denise's quality too.
Yeah, and then Rachel, I suppose Lynette Berenstein was the one that was, again, similar to Malar in the latter stages in Tala. She was the one that was the thorn in the side, but there had been warning signs even before she actually put the Dutch ahead.
Yeah, I think we seen early on, I think it was around 10 minutes in, where she gets in behind Aoife Mannion and she kind of cuts across, and Courtney has to come out and make a save, and Aoife Mannion has to dive in and make a sliding tackle. So like the early warning signs were there, and then for the first goal, it's a bit of kind of, I don't know if it's miscommunication, but I think it was Connolly passed it on to Katie, and Katie passed it on to Connolly, and she just drifts free. And look, it's a great ball in, to be fair, but she just drifts off the back of Aoife Mannion where Aoife can't see her. Maybe we spoke about Aoife Mannion before, who's slotting in, and maybe just not that natural right back where she opens her body, knows who the player is. She kind of has her back to her, and look, it's in the back of the net. And then the second one then, obviously from a corner, but like we spoke about last week, I just felt like we gave away needless corners in the two games, and especially the French one. It's probably a bit of tired minds as well, but Chloe makes a great block, and I think Brosnan can come out and just pick it up, or Hayes can even kick a swing and kick it out for a throw, but she kicks out for a corner kick, and that's where the goal comes from. And then in the Dutch game, then it's, look, to be fair, it's not a bad decision. Anna Patton tries to clear, but she just completely slices it and it goes out of play. And even after that, it's Katie's on the front post and she kind of gets drawn towards the ball, and then that's the space that we leave then for Berenstein to score. And can we even have someone in front of Berenstein to protect Courtney a bit more? So there's you know, it's great for her getting the 2 goals, but you know, there are avoidable goals even for us. Like that corner, that's avoidable first of all, and then our, you know, get a better shape then going into it. So look, in a way, it's really frustrating to concede these goals where you know you can do better, but if you're looking ahead, you can think, right, that's a bit of an easy fix for us going into them Poland games.
Yeah, and probably even more frustrating, Maeve, in the sense that if defensive corners are an issue, the ones at the other end are sort of the way forward in a sense for Ireland, because of course the penalty comes from that route as well.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of second phase, the ball back in from Katie to Anna Patton. Controversial penalty to say the least. But at the end of the day, we'd take it, and Katie dispatched it well. I know she had missed ones in the past, the likes of against Ukraine for that playoff, we remember. But in fairness, she had handled the pressure well and tucked it away. And you kind of thought at that point we might have gotten a point out of the game. And I know Courtney Brosnan went down for one of her tactical breaks or her injuries and that, but it seemed at that point that might have gone against Ireland nearly, because it seemed to obviously it gave a break to the Dutch as well, and they got in around and spoke with their coach, and they seemed to come out after that with a lot more urgency, and they got the goal, then the second goal soon after. So I'm not too sure those breaks, you know, to try break the momentum at times they can go against us, but I know it's something, I suppose, a broader talking point in the game in general worldwide. I think we're seeing a lot of the keepers going down lately.
Yeah, is that much? Does that bother you? Obviously, from our point of view, we don't really care because it's, you know, with patriotism and all that in terms of Courtney Brosnan going down regularly. But on the other podcast with Richie Towell and Keith Tracy, Keith was kind of giving his take on, I suppose, Arsenal and all, you know, all these question marks about their men's team and how they, I suppose, they manage a game. But from your point of view, is it something that needs to be clamped down on?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think, look, when you play, obviously, if you need it, or like keeper go down, we need a couple of minutes here, and if you're the other team, it's really frustrating. But I think sometimes as a spectator, it's getting a bit kind of hard to watch. It's like a break and play, you know, it could be 4 or 5 minutes where you're not seeing any sort of play going on. So, look, there's positives and negatives to it. But I think, you know, when you're watching, sitting at home frustrated, you know, there's nothing wrong with the keeper, and you're just having to sit there for 5 minutes watching a team talk basically on the sideline. It can be a bit, you know, frustrating to watch.
Yeah, but obviously Carla Ward has reason maybe to have those bits of talks on the side while Courtney Brosnan is getting treatment. Let's listen to Carla now. She was talking to Tony O'Donoghue in Utrecht just after the 2-1 defeat.
Yeah, it's tough to take. It's sickening, isn't it, really? Because I think, look, over the course of the last 4 or 5 days, we've played 2 of the best in the world, and both we've come away with disappointed not to take something, and it's just disappointing because the players have been excellent. They really have. They've left everything out there. They've executed the game plan brilliantly, and you know, we pride ourselves on defending set pieces, and it's just 2 moments that, over the course of the 2 games, that have hurt us. And yeah, it's a difficult one to take tonight, I'm not going to lie.
All right, that is Carla Ward talking to Tony in Utrecht after the 2-1 defeat there, and 0 points from those 2 games. But the thoughts really were always going to be about April. So on Tuesday the 14th in Gdansk, they have Poland away, and then at home on Saturday the 18th at the Aviva Stadium. And Rachel, I suppose this was always going to be the real test, but Poland come in with a slight advantage in that they did get a point against the Dutch, the 2-2 draw that they had on home soil. And that, is there an element that Ireland have to sort of chase it a little bit?
Yeah, and that's what we spoke about last week, how important that point could be. And unfortunately, Poland have got it and we haven't. So going into these 2 games now, you're probably looking at trying to get 4 points, I would say, out of the games. Look, obviously, if you can win the 2 games, you win them. But I would say 4 points. We really can't afford to lose one of these games. And Poland now have that bit of cushion where, you know, they can probably nearly afford to draw the 2 games. If a game is tight coming towards the end, they might be happy to see it out. So they have that little bit of cushion. But yeah, look, these were always the games that we were going to target as the ones we're really going to attack, the ones we're really going to try and get points from. So look, hopefully we can take, like I was saying, the goals that we conceded, they're all avoidable goals, ones we can fix. So hopefully we get that sorted for the next camp, and you know, obviously we might get more chance. We got great chances against France, so if we can create them against France, we can create them against Poland. So it's obviously another thing now, converting your chances, which is what we didn't do. So look, that's probably the takeaway now, where okay, it's disappointing we've come away with no points. We've played really well, but the goals we've conceded we can really kind of work on and stamp out of our game. So look, you know, although we come away with no points, it's not, you know, a real kind of disappointing camp.
Yeah, and Maeve, based on the way Ireland approached those games against France and the Netherlands, as Rachel said, quite impressive in many aspects of the play, and obviously giving away maybe a couple of silly goals here and there. Coming up against Poland, who are viewed as being our level, how well are Ireland set up to take on that challenge based on what you've seen in Poland as well?
Yeah, I think I mean their major threat is Ava Pyor up front, and she is just such quality. Although the rest of the team mightn't be household names, I think just her record stands for itself. Like she had such a great club career, even with Wolfsburg. She got 136 goals in 196 games for 9 seasons there, and of course now she's at Barcelona. So she's just going to be a thorn, I feel like, in our side. But if we can try, like Rachel said, just stamp out those defensive errors and really pay great attention to her, then I think we should be able to hopefully overcome them. Like when you think about the other third seeds that we could have gotten Denmark, who are 14th in the world, or the likes of Iceland and Austria, and all of them are in the top 20. So really, we've got the most favourable draw when it comes to the third seed. So yeah, 6 points would be ideal, but I think 4 points, we'd really take that. It'd be great. But I think I'd see a lot of continuity, I'd imagine, and just maybe a little bit more emphasis then on attack as well, because we're going to have to get goals to get the results.
Yeah, and Rachel, in terms of general play as well, then when we compared the last time we were in League A for qualifiers, how would you compare Ireland to the Ireland of now to the Ireland of then? Do they seem, I suppose, more astute almost?
I think so, yeah, and look, probably a bit more confident and maybe backing ourselves a bit more, and you'll definitely take it away from these two games now as well, where we've gone and we've not just seen them out or like defended for our lives for 90 minutes. We really put it up to them. So I think you take that bit of confidence, take it into the Poland game, really back ourselves going into these games that we're going to go in. We're going to, again, be hard to beat. You always need to be hard to beat, especially when it's probably part of our DNA as Irish, where we're really kind of, fighting. We'll not give up anything easy, so we can't lose that side of our game as well. But really back ourselves and the quality that we do have going forward. And I think maybe if you're looking at any change you might want to make, it's, we're obviously trying to catch teams in the break, and if that is the same game plan going into Poland, and maybe can you get the likes of it, Naby Larkin on earlier? I just don't think it really suits Ciara Cruz. I think she's more like a hold-up centre forward, get the ball into her, get other players into play, and that's not what we really want to do. We want to just catch teams on the break. So maybe the likes of an Naby Larkin you might see coming in now instead of Ciara Cruz.
Yeah, and Méabh, I suppose overall as well, the key players remained the same from the last time that we were in League A. When you look at the depth and maybe players coming in, do you have any sort of concerns in terms of depth and sort of the wider scope of the squad?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's hard when you look at, like, say, the 23 World Cup and how many players have been capped since then. We only have 5 players have got their debut since then. The likes of Caitlin Hayes, Anna Patton, who we know have slotted in well, and then Emily Murphy too, and then you have Erin Healy and Sophie Whitehouse would be the other two. But aside from that, it just seemed like we're not really blooding players in, and home-based players too. You'd have to go back to Erin McLaughlin was the last one to be capped there. So yeah, it's difficult to see. It's kind of, I suppose, a lot of managers when they come in, they do want to get the results here and now, and that's what their job depends on. So even look back to the starting 11 the last night, and there's 7 players in their 30s, which obviously they still have plenty of football in them, but you would want to see just, I suppose, those younger players coming through as well. The depth that Rachel said in terms of France and Netherlands, who they can spring from the bench, and who we have is, yeah, I suppose it's slightly worrying, and maybe it is something that we just need to look at going forward to try blood in those new players. But one aspect of that as well is the Nations League wasn't there in the past, so we could have blooded players in with friendlies a lot easier too. And I thought maybe Ward would have used that game against Hungary last November to do that, but I think Sophie Whitehouse was the only one to get a debut in that game. So yeah, it's definitely an area to look at going forward.
All right, so Poland to come, of course, next month. 2 really important games in the context of the group and the qualifiers. Obviously, playoffs at the end of it. But the President's Cup, Rachel, obviously, you were part of the matchday squad for Shelbourne at the start of, I suppose, what is the curtain raiser for the season at Lone Town, though 1-0. Going into the game, what was the Shell's approach? Was it sort of lay down a marker, or is there an element of shadow boxing, given it's not there aren't points on the line?
Yeah, and look, I think for us it was going in to really see where we were at. We've obviously played pre-season friendlies, but for me they're just never really the same kind of feeling, and you can't really ever read too much into them. But we wanted to see where we were at against, obviously, Athlone, best team last year, so we really wanted to see where we stood against them. And look, I thought we were really good in the first half. I thought we were probably the better team in the first half, and then they actually made change the half-time. Dana Sherry came on, and look, she really changed the game. She was excellent, and we've seen her in the league before, how good she was, and she really did make an impact. And look, I'm assuming she's going to start every other game. It's just, I think she had a little bit of an injury, so that's the reason why she didn't start. So look, we've definitely put it up to them. Obviously, couldn't see the game out. I do think they were the better team in the second half, great, better chances. But look, for me, I'm just happy to see that we're in around the same level as them. We can put it up to them because, obviously as Shells, it's, we're well used to competing with teams, but we haven't won the league in a couple of years. So to know that we're still up there in a round, I think this year should give the league a good chance.
Yeah, and I suppose Méabh, in the wider sense as well, it was a game where there were quite a lot of overseas players, particularly American-born players too.
Yeah, there was. I think there was 7 of the 22 players who started were from America, and it's an interesting one. It seems to have kind of developed over the years now that more and more overseas players are coming in, and obviously then they bring with them experience and they increase the quality of the league as well. The standards are going up, but on the flip side, then you could say that maybe less opportunities are being afforded to the younger players who are coming through the academies too. So it is an interesting one, but I know like the FAI have put the Women's Development League in place this year too. So that of course will kind of strengthen that player pathway and give more opportunities to players as well, home-based players, I suppose, to try to make that breakthrough into the senior ranks.
Yeah, and what does it say to you as well? The likes of Dana Sheriff coming back to the league and Maggie Pearce as well. That they've gone away, but they've just sort of found they found something that they like about this league, and it's brought them home.
Yeah, it's a positive thing really, because you would have seen a lot of players just in the past coming over for a year maybe and just trying it out. But the fact, like I said, those 2 players are coming back, it really, I suppose, shows the league's development and kind of what a good product we have now, really, that the players of their quality who've played in the likes of, I know they went away, played in the likes of Switzerland, Czechia, America, and then decided to come back to the likes of Athlone and Shelbourne. I think it's a really positive thing to take for the league. And like I said, it shows it's not just attractive place for 1 year, but maybe for kind of a long-term thing as well.
Yeah, so the new season kicks off on Saturday. Let's talk about Athlone Town first, but let's listen to the manager, John Sullivan. So at the League of Ireland launch towards the end of January, I spoke to him and he kind of talked about the makeup of the squad this year and obviously the void that is left by one particular star striker.
I came in the last 2 months of the season. My objective was to understand the group, understand the individuals, see what's working and how do you make it more efficient without rocking the boat. And it seemed to have worked. I was very lucky to come in and work with such fantastic players, fantastic group. And I'm very thankful to any of the predecessors who have left the football imprint in the group. Made my job a whole lot easier.
Yeah, and it's obviously a full season now to look ahead to in terms of being involved in the full pre-season as the manager. You've retained the core of the squad, in fairness.
Yeah, I don't know the exact figure, but I think three went on to bigger and better in life, and then 2 of the 3 went on to other clubs in the league to get additional game time, which is very understandable. So yeah, I'd say we retained about 80-84% of the squad, and we've brought in fantastic additions. So overall, I'd like to believe the squad is a whole lot stronger than what it was last year.
Yeah, in terms of Kelly Brady, the legacy she kind of leaves behind, obviously moving away and everything she did last season. How do you look back on what her contribution was over last season?
Yeah, Kelly scored, I think it was 27 goals. Someone said 20. She corrected on 27. Fantastic individual accolades. That helps any team. But like I said, we've brought in very, very good players this year, and I strongly believe collectively we'll progress.
All right, so that's John Sullivan there, and he is Athlone Town manager for full season this year. Obviously, he took charge towards the end of last season. I suppose Méabh, they're not necessarily weaker than they were last season, even without the 27 goals he mentioned there from Kelly Brady across all competitions last season.
Yeah, I'd have to probably agree with him. They seem stronger this year. Like we said, Dana Sheriff back in there, and she won the Golden Boot a couple of seasons ago too. So, like Rachel said, I'd expect her to start going forward in the league. And yeah, they have the quality of Chloe Singleton, Kaylee Shine, those local players too, and Hannah Wesh, I think, is a real quality player for them. I think she got the captaincy this year as well. So. Yeah, I really think it's going to be like I suppose Athlone's league maybe to lose. I don't know. It's hard to see what will other teams. I think Shelbourne will be up there very close to them as well. But the kind of investment, I know they new ownership since last summer as well. So that type of investment is hard to compete with. But it's going to be interesting to see if they'll start this season how they left last season.
Yeah, and Kate Slevin as well, who's switched codes as well, because I hadn't really realised that until I was looking at a LGFA match report, and she was the main image on it.
Yeah, I actually spoke with her after probably that same match. I'd say I was just chatting to her afterwards, and yeah, she's focusing on the LGFA this year, and I think Galway are probably one of the favourites to win that. So I'm sure she's just kind of trying to focus. It is hard when you're spreading yourself across two sports. So who knows? We might see her back in the blue and black by the end of the season. But yeah, for now, she'll be a big loss for them. She's a real quality player there in midfield. But like I said, they seem to have a lot of players in there, and obviously the experience of Noel as well. And we'll see if that will add to the kind of shells that lone rivalry throughout the season as well.
Yeah, as Méabh said there's been a huge rivalry in the last few seasons between yourselves and Athlone, but I think the thing you've always noted with them is that the level of fitness is probably the thing that underpins them.
Yeah, and they're a really athletic team, and that's sometimes what you get with the Americans. They come in as well. They're when they're at home training, it seems to be like fitness first and football second, whereas we're a bit different. So they've kind of brought that into the league, and look, that was probably part of our recruitment as well this year, where we felt we weren't as athletic as the other teams, and we were kind of falling off probably in the last 20-30 games. So that was a big part of our recruitment this year. But no, look, Athlone, they're really fit, strong, powerful. They also have really good players too, like that Hannah Waish in the middle, excellent player, like Maddie Gibson, really good player. They're Americans as well, but they're kind of the ones that have the the best of both. They're fit and athletic, so it's something that we've kind of identified that maybe we're lacking a bit, and that was part of our recruitment for this year.
And in terms of having a new manager as well in the shape of Sean Russell, what's he look to change beyond maybe trying to address sort of that sort of fitness thing, and I suppose getting more athleticism within the squad?
Yeah, and look, I think it's fair to say as well, like we're not always miles off, at
because the games are always tight between you.
Yeah, exactly. And even look, it was tight enough come the end of the season, so it's not like you had to come in and like revamp the whole place or change everything. It was just probably adding that bit of pace that we need if we're trying to break against a team or get us up the pitch, and a bit of fitness and recruitment. Basically, I don't think he's had to come in and rip everything up, so I think that was important to realise as well. But look, he's so far it's been really good. His level of detail as a coach has been really excellent, and hopefully that's something that makes a big difference to us this year. But look, we've a really kind of tough opening game now against Treaty. Even for him, he's obviously come from Treaty last year, so I'm sure they're out to kind of make a point of that as well. But no, so far he's been really excellent.
Yeah, and Pearl Slattery, I was speaking to her at the same launch as I was speaking to John Sullivan. She was really talking him up as well. So let's have a listen to her, where I think she was just talking about what happened last season in terms of the season for Shells.
Questions about whether the clock is ticking, like what age does that kind of start? Because it does seem like, from a journalist point of view, we're trying to retire you fairly early.
Yeah, I'm probably saying since I turned 30 that this will be final year, but I think then you realise, Jesus, you're not always going to play, you're going to miss it for many years. And I don't know, I don't really look at the age thing anymore. I work hard, everyone sees you have a Saturday and stuff, but you don't see, I suppose, the work you put in week to week to make sure that you can compete, that you are still training and playing at that level. So I think once you're dedicated and you put in the hard work, I think age is just a number. I think, the league is very young, but, I don't think it's anything without the experienced players and people who have been there and done that. And as I said, I still love it. I still have that fire in my belly. Still love going out to train and love being Shell's been part of my identity now for over a decade, and it's a big part of my life, and I've always said captain in the club will be the greatest thing I've ever done. So it's one of them things. Look, when your time will come, it'll come, but at the moment I just don't feel that way, and I'm going to enjoy every minute. I've said that to my family this year, every session, things like this, you don't know when it's going to be your last, so just enjoy it while you can.
Yeah, and in terms of last season, how do you reflect on it? I mean, second place in the league against a really good Athlone side.
Yeah, look, Athlone were deserved champions. We felt, you obviously do reflect, and the off season's long, so you've a lot of time to do that, and I think at the start of last season we were one of the favourites. We had a brilliant squad, we were competing for everything, and I think just in some of the bigger games we just probably weren't there, probably just didn't get that goal to kill off a game and we needed. And look, I think it'd be easy for us to sit there and make excuses with injuries we've had, and I've spoken a few of the interviews now. Two girls deal with massive losses in terms of losing parents throughout a season, and I think when you're not in that environment it's very easy to just pass it by, move on very quickly, but it affects the group, affects the girls. And look, although we didn't win trophies last year, to see two girls go through that, to lose parents, which is probably the ultimate loss you can have in life, but a few days later to continue wanting to train, play, wear the jersey, fight for the crest, I mean, it's probably the proudest I've ever felt as captain of the club. And nearly then you're hoping you win something for them because they've gone through that. And look, I think when deaths happen like that, everyone else's life goes on the following week. The girls were still grieving throughout the season, still grieving every day. I'd imagine losing a parent, very difficult. So see Aoibhinn and Noelle go through that, but still want to play, fight. It's probably some of the proudest I've felt captain of this club. So sometimes there's bigger things than football, and the two girls made us as a group the proudest we could have been to continue to play on for the season, you know, and give their best. And look, sometimes that's not enough, that's fine, but as I said, to see the two girls give what they gave, just in awe at their strength, and you know, we're very thankful to them for that.
All right, that's very well said from Pearl there, and I suppose you'd already given us the exclusive that yourself and Pearl were coming back for this 2026 season, and you're obviously going to be key behind the scenes and on the pitch as well in terms of being that sort of, I suppose, the unifying core that is there even amid all the other changes of players coming in and out and a new manager too. Yeah, and that was probably big for me and Pearl this year, that we knew this squad had, you know, we had a radical change within the squad, and even our starting team on Sunday, I think there were 6 new players in it, so we knew, me and Pearl said to each other, like, we'd have to really kind of bond us here. And look, we've obviously done that. We went, you know, done a night away and everyone gets to know each other. So it was hard at the start to really gel. Everyone was just so many new faces, and like, it was hard, and that's probably where me and Pearl are, you know, really important, and you know, identifying that, and we're that kind of link between maybe management and players. If players have issues, they'll come to us, and if we can fix them, we'll do it. So look, that comes with experience as well, and you know, we're kind of always feel like very protective of the players. It's nearly like, you know, we're their bigger sisters, we're looking out for them. So you know, that is really an important part for us. But look, me and Pearl, we're both very competitive people, so we both want to play as much as we can and, you know, do as best as we can for the team. You don't want to be one of them people that it's just great to have around the place and you can do great stuff off the pitch. I always say, like, if I can't offer anything on the pitch at Shells, I won't be part of a squad. So I know Pearl feels the same. So look, we're still up there. Me and Pearl always do our off-season running together, keep each other going, keep each other young. So we're still up there. We're still, I'd say, middle of the pack in the fitness running. We're never up the front, but we're never down the back. So as long as we're not down the very back, miles behind, looking at everyone, we'll still play. Yeah, and then moving on to Shamrock Rovers then, Méabh, as well. If there's been changes at Shells, Shamrock Rovers also, there's been a huge revamp on and off the pitch. Obviously with James O'Callaghan taking over as the head coach, but then of course the surprise move, at least it was a surprise in January, Ellen Malloy joining their squad.
Yeah, exactly. I think James will be a big addition there. You know, bringing lots of experience. I think there's 8 new managers overall in the league, so huge turnover there. And you know, it's a lot of will to be seen, I suppose, to see how they'll get on in that. But he brought a few players with him, and like I said, yeah, Ella Malloy is going to be there until the summer at least, so she'll be it'll be a big addition there, and the likes of, I think, Sive Doyle will be a huge player for them. I would have played with Sive in Galway, and she brings just great quality. And a few of the players, Lauren as well, O'Callaghan, came from Peamount to there, so I think it'll be a huge. I think Shamrock Rovers will definitely be a team that will be competing at the top of the table. I know there was, you know, in the last couple of years they've been pushing, but they finished 5th last season, so they weren't right up there challenging, I suppose, come the end of the season. But this year I would expect them to be in and around the kind of fight for silverware for sure. Yeah, and let's have a listen to James O'Callaghan, because this is obviously in and around Ellen Malloy, but also he, he's had a huge amount of success at Peamount as well, and brought in a couple of players from there. Now he was speaking in late January, so obviously the transfer window closed a little bit after that, so there were also some additional players. But let's just listen to James right now. Well, again, we were speaking to her over a few weeks during December and stuff, coming into January. So it's just. Again, we spoke to lots of players, lots of cups of coffees with different players, because I said 7 players have moved on in Rovers, so we needed we had 10 players from last season, and 10 young players, so we needed to build a squad. So again, along with Ellen, you know, we spoke to lots of players, so we've been making 7 signings. Alongside the 10 that were already there. Yeah, and in terms of some of the players that have come in from Peamount as well, Amanda Budden as well, and Sive Doyle, so kind of fishing in that pool in a sense. Well, again, Sive, I brought Sive to Peamount many years ago. You know, we'd have a really good relationship. She's a fantastic player, Sive. She got Player of the Year in the league 3 seasons ago, and she had a kind of time out being injured. But you know, she's a fantastic player, and Amanda,
she's like, she's a top goalkeeper again. She's lots of experience, been around a long time. And then obviously Therese Kenevi, a really good defender from Galway, been around a long time, good experience. Obviously Erica Thorne has come in as well. She used to be at DLR before she went on a scholarship to America. And obviously I brought in Lauren, my daughter. So there's lots of good experience coming in there. So again, we still hope to sign another one or two before the transfer deadline. All to mix in with the younger players that we have in the squad.
All right, so that's the Shamrock Rovers manager, James O'Callaghan, who, of course, also added that he is a childhood fan of the club as well. The knock-on effect, Méabh, is on Wexford, who lose Ellen Malloy, and they've also got a new manager as well in Dave Connell, who, in fairness to him, has a lot of experience with managing the Ireland underage teams.
Yeah, he does, and I think he brought a couple of players as well with him too, and the likes of, say, Megan Smith Lynch, who obviously went from Shelbourne there, but they've Christy Gray too, and a couple of players as well they've recruited from America too. So we'll just have to wait and see what qualities they bring, but definitely there are huge losses there. The likes of Kylie Murphy, who has been the only captain of the club since the inception of the league, so she'll be a huge loss, leadership qualities and that, and the likes of Nicola Sinnott, Rihanna Jarrett, who all would have been there in the past too. I think it's going to be a year probably of transition really. Like you said, Ellen Malloy, just a huge loss for them. She'll be hard to replace because, as we know, it's really the goal scorers are those teams up near the top of the table usually have the top goal scorers as well. So yeah, it'd be, I think, like I said, a year of transition probably for Wexford.
Yeah, and Galway United, obviously, it's natural to ask you the question, given it's your home county. But they've pushed relatively close at times without really having a proper title challenge. How well are they fixed for 2026?
I think they haven't seemed to have recruited loads of players in the off season. I know they've I think Amanda McQuillan came in, so she'll bring some kind of leadership between the posts there, and the likes of Cara Griffin too, I think, and I think they just maybe need a little bit more consistency. Like I said, they've been thereabouts in the last few seasons, finishing third last season as well. So I think they'll want to try to push at Athlone and Shelbourne just that little bit more. Maybe just the depth in the squad is what would have let them down maybe in other years, just if they did suffer some injuries. So they'll have a lot of consistency there with Phil Trill as well and the backroom team, providing that. So I think they'll be ones to watch. It'll be hard to know will they be up there come the end of the season, but yeah, hopefully from my perspective they will be.
Yeah, and Rachel, Athlone, if they're the big rivals now, Peamount would have always been your big rivals over the years, and of course they seem to have dropped off a little bit from that. There is a slight change at the top. Gary Seary's still in charge as part of the management team, but Emma Donoghue has left it now. How are they fixed now? Because Karen Duggan would be a big loss in terms of a leader, and she's retired now, and then they've lost some players as well to Shamrock Rovers too.
Yeah, lost key players like Sive Doyle, Amanda Budden have lost their keeper. Lauren O'Callaghan, one of the players who's longest serving there. So, they've probably really been hit hard in the off season. And look, to be fair, they're probably a team that, have slipped down the table the last couple of years. And, they won the league, I think, 3-4 years ago, maybe at this stage. So they have slipped down a good bit in the last few years. And I don't know, maybe is it just kind of bigger fish coming in terms of clubs? Where we have the likes of Shamrock Rovers, Athlone. These are all like League of Ireland clubs. I don't know if they're having more of a pull over players are maybe more attracted to these kind of clubs. So look, they're probably in a bit of a dangerous period now where they could probably really see themselves slip down the table. But look, they've some really good young players. We actually played them in a pre-season friendly, and look, we beat them 2-0, but it was a really tight game. They've held on to, Mary Phillips is still there. They still have some really good players, but they're probably in that bit of a dangerous time where I think other clubs are maybe, starting to attract the players in terms of offering professional contracts, and like even just facility wise, maybe they're kind of falling a bit behind. So look, it'd be sad to see because they are like such a huge club, and like you said, we always have such a big rivalry with them. So anytime we play them, it's kind of that case of form goes out the window. It's nearly like cup final, and we still always feel like they have that bit of rivalry there. But I do think they probably slipped down the last couple of years. I don't think as a club they'll be happy with where they are, and you would just hope that it doesn't continue to go further and further down the table. Yeah,
and a newer rivalry for yourselves that we kind of saw a little bit of last season in a very young squad similar to Peamount. It's Bows got to 2 cup finals, was on the losing side in both of them. Very young squad, but how do you feel that they have, especially based on the experiences last year, that they can push on a little bit in the league and be a bit more consistent?
Yeah, and look, I think that's probably, the best derby we have. It's always a really kind of heated game, but it's always an entertaining game, which is the most important. But look, Bohs are, a really good team. They've obviously have young players, but they've really good young players. I know I spoke about Ava Brennan before, Hannah Healy, even their keeper Rachel Kelly. Like, they're all really good players. And then getting to the 2 cup finals would have really helped them last year, even in confidence wise, experience wise. And look, I probably still think they're maybe a bit off, pushing a title, but they're probably definitely looking at that cup final again, saying we want to get back there again, but we want to win it this time. And look, the only danger for them is, I know Hannah Healy and Ava Brennan do want to go either to America or play professionally, so potentially could lose them this summer, if not next summer. So that'd be a huge loss for them. But look, that's one of our biggest games. It's definitely the most nearly like intense game. It's really get a good crowd for the game. It's a real kind of Dublin derby feel, which I do think the league misses a little bit. You see it all the time in the men's league, and so you have Pats and Shells, Rovers and Bows, like really kind of intense games. And that's probably the one for me that emulates that as well as the men's game. So it's always a game we really look forward to. I know they really look forward to as well. They obviously have a lot of ex-Shells players, so coming back to kind of prove a point, which I really admire in someone. So yeah, look, they're definitely a team that, look, I don't think they're probably going to be tipped to win a league, but they're definitely going to give everyone a tough game.
Yeah, and Treaty United similarly, Maeve, last season, obviously they started quite well, but then faded a little bit. But there's a great opportunity now for Laurie Ryan to put her stamp on that team and that club.
Yeah, huge opportunity. We're all familiar with her as the ex-captain and player with Athlone, but she has done a bit of coaching too. I mean, she in terms of college football, she coached TUS to the InterVarsity title in 2024. So she does bring that experience, and I think it'd be interesting to see how Treaty get on. I know they're missing this year Flacchini. Isabel Flacchini was a great player from last year, and they have signed though as well the likes of Rola Solo from Galway and a couple of players from Cork, Jodie Griffin, Anya Walsh as well. So I think they're gonna be better placed than they were last year. I think 8th probably wasn't maybe reflective of, like I said, how good their start of the season was. Of course, have Madison McGuan in there as well, just a really top young player, and I think we all have great kind of hopes for her in the future too. She's doing really well at the underage Irish team. So I think I think Treaty will definitely be looking to push on, and a huge opportunity for Laurie Ryan in there.
Yeah, and then below Treaty United last season, Rachel, there was quite a gap then to the bottom 4. So it was DLR Waves, Sligo Rovers, Waterford and Cork City. When you look at that quartet, who do you feel is best placed to maybe push on and get closer to let's say the top 8?
I think probably Sligo, looking at what they've signed, they seem to have kind of gone down the route of bringing in Americans in. So there's a bit of an unknown with that. Like, they're bringing in players and all you see is kind of highlights or clips, and sure, everyone looks good on highlights and clips. So it's a bit of an unknown, but they definitely seem to have kind of invested this year and gone outside Ireland to bring players in. So I think Alone have the first game of the season, so a bit of an unknown going in for them. It could look probably a whole new team. You just don't know them. So look, it's better for the league. We obviously need competitive games, but I think Sligo are the ones who have really invested and brought players from outside in. Yeah,
and in terms of the budgets and the finances, Maeve, as well, do you feel there is a bit of a divide between, I suppose, the haves and the have-nots as well, and that this is something that's going to start growing?
I think so, yeah. I think we'll see more of it, like the men's game. We talked about previously, even the likes of Noel being let go was like a football decision that we wouldn't have had, experience of or seen that in the past in the league. And now, like you said, that kind of divide, I suppose, those teams with resources and those without. You can compare, say, to Peamount, who wouldn't be able to invest that kind of money into bringing players from abroad in, and then the others towards the top end of the table. So I think this season will probably be really telling in that. I think we might see that divide that you mentioned even come to the fore even more, in terms of maybe even split the table somewhat in that we might see it come the end of the season. But yeah, all will be revealed, I suppose, starting this weekend.
Yeah, I might put you on the spot though in terms of a prediction. I think you did say Athlone, but if you're going to go sort of top 4, I suppose Shelbourne are going to be in there. Who else do you feel will maybe push potentially for a title, but at least be in that top quartet?
Yeah, I think I would have to say Galway again would be right up there thereabouts. I know, like I said, they haven't recruited loads compared to other teams in the league, but I think they have such a good underage structure coming through as well that we'll see a few of those academy players progress into the first team throughout the season as well. And yeah, the last, I suppose, making up the top four, I'd probably go with Shamrock Rovers. They seem to have, like I said, invested a lot and put, new management. Like I said, James O'Callaghan brings such experience and a winning mentality from his time at Méabh. Vinnie Patterson in there as well, just will bring great leadership and experience too. So I think I'd expect that we might see them in the top four, but again, it's hard to judge at this stage. A lot of those teams as well, like I said, even in the bottom four from last year, will be trying to push up the table and really keep the pressure on the top. So I think as well, the fact that there's going to be 2 European spots up for grabs this season will really add another kind of dimension to the league. So in the past, maybe if like it would have been only the top 1 or 2 teams really vying for the title, but now those third, fourth, fifth place teams will be trying to get into that second European spot. So yeah, it should make for a really interesting season, I think.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that actually, Rachel, but and I wasn't going to ask you about a prediction because given you're a live participant in it as well, it would not be fair at all. Obviously, you'd have to say Shelbourne as your answer as who's going to win the league. But in terms of those European spots, is that something that within the squad you've actually talked about, that this is, that this is actually a huge carrot? Obviously, you're going for the league title, but that there's also this added thing on top of it as well.
To be honest, no, it hasn't been brought up. Look, our ambition would be to win the league, and it'd be the same with Athlone and probably even Galway, even Wexford Rovers. I'm sure they're looking at, we want to win, but look, if it is coming to the end of a season and look, just say Athlone are running away with the league and ourselves and Galway are neck and neck in points, then you'll start fighting for that second spot. But I don't think you go into a season with the ambition of that. Maybe the likes of, Rovers, even about, like, they might have the ambition and that be a goal, but I think for us now, I don't think we'd be, settling for winning or coming second and getting a European spot. It's, we want to win the league. That's our goal. Yeah,
but I suppose for the overall league as well, it is a good thing as well in terms of, I suppose, money as well that comes in.
Yeah, huge. And like Méabh was saying, like, we only have a winner now and there's nothing else really, no relegation, and hopefully that's in next year. So like I was saying before, like, even when you're coming to the end of a season, if you're playing a team towards the bottom, they've nothing to play for. The game is just, like, say Athlone are going away to Cork and they need to win the league. It's going to happen. Whereas if Cork are fighting to stay up in the league, don't want to get relegated, it becomes a much different game. So it adds that element now of another competition where, look, we'll have our winner, but we'll also have a second place fight as well. So it just makes all the games more competitive.
All right. Well, best of luck for the new season, Rachel. Méabh, thanks a mil for coming on this week as well and talking us through your thoughts on the new season. We will be back next Monday where we will be reviewing the first round of games as well and looking forward to what's ahead too. So we'll see you next week.